So, how do we get more things done, but avoid overwhelm? Hey there, my friends. Welcome back to the Logistics Life. And today I want to talk about something that I think we've all faced in our lives. I know at this point in my career, this is something that I really have to pay attention to. And I think a lot of high performers are this way, in essence, where, you know, we want to get so much done in a day. We have so many different things we're looking at doing. And I know I've had many shows before where I talk about, find the needle movers and use those needle movers in order to, really compound what you're doing in a day and really give yourself every opportunity to win. But there's a couple of things that I found also come into play when we're really starting to investigate this productivity angle in our business. And I think for most of the part in our life, right? Um, I don't know about you. I'm a huge YouTube guy where anytime I want to learn something, that's the first place I go still. I know there's, talked about before about GPTing everything you want to learn. I'm in the process of doing that. But until I find all of those ends of my life that I want to really identify, YouTube is still going to be the place that I go to. So what I did a couple of months back is I started really looking at this idea of productivity and saying to myself, okay, how do I get more things done in less time, but not be overwhelmed to the point, because I don't know about you guys, but I felt like it was this almost like I share with people often. And if you've ever had this, it's like, I always had this feeling at the end of the day, like I didn't do my homework on a Sunday night. And I realized after lots of internal thinking and going inward and really being alone with my thoughts that I have all these perspectives and perceptions of getting things done. And and I know I've spoken about this before, and not allotting enough time to really complete the task the way I want. So then I'm feeling rushed. Then when you finish that task and it's taken, say, half an hour longer, I don't know about you, but then I all of a sudden get like, oh my God, now I got to get this other one done in less than half the time in order to meet my schedule. So what I started doing is I thought to myself, you know what? The greatest way to do this is just YouTube, best ways to be productive. So here's where number one in my top three tips to just get productive and avoid overwhelm is, if you're going to do this, choose one person. I made the mistake of watching one video after another, after another, after another. And I'll tell you, it kept me up 90% of the night because I just started formulating, how do I stack all of this on top of each other? And I realized through trial and error, my friends, I realized that when we are trying to get better, right? When we're trying to really build something, going into too many gurus actually hurts us, because I found, anyways, for myself, the one thing is, when I have too much information, it creates overwhelm about the information that's supposed to make me productive. And I hope that makes sense. So I'm talking specifically on productivity here, but it was one thing where I stopped and I said, okay, this week, and I did this by week, because I believe if you put, an hour or two a day into creating that next level for yourself, you're going to get there. And you probably need a week to identify, does this work or does it not, right? And here's the one thing with tools. You might find right away with your tool that, you know what, this is unbelievable, it works. And midweek, you might be able to implement a second tool. But what I've found is that week perspective is really one of the points that really hits home. And what I mean by that is giving myself a week to really go through it, to create that bulletproof action where I try and break it and I can't break it. So what I did is I started, like Jeff Liu, Sue was one of the first people that I started looking at. He's a big productivity expert on YouTube. But then I went to so many other people, Matthias, and then all these other people. And I realized that I just can't do it. I need to do one at a time. So what I did is I took one aspect of my productivity. For me, that was a system called Notion. So as you all know, most of you know, I was a pen and paper kind of guy. I love the pen and paper thing. I write every morning in my journal and pen and paper. I still haven't moved to an iPad for that or anything. But I also understand the digital way of trying to find something is a lot faster when you set up systems so I can be more productive in finding information. Right. So that was one of the big reasons I started to look at and started to really identify or quote unquote move to more of a computer or software based productivity app, for lack of a better term. So for me, that was Notion. I don't know what yours is. I mean, if you're going to use Notion, I'll tell you right now, Notion itself can become massively overwhelming, and actually put you back. It can actually literally give you less ability to get things done rather than more ability. And for me, like, I don't want to adopt something into my life or into my business or into my workflow that's going to make me less productive, right? I don't think anyone wants to do that. So if you're going to use an app like Notion, just be aware you can get overwhelmed pretty darn quick with it, right? So if you're going to use an app like Notion, I suggest you maybe choose one person to understand Notion, make Notion that productivity tool for the week before you start implementing massive productivity workflows. Okay. So with that, then what I did is I said, okay, I want to implement 1 to 3 ideas a week to become more productive. So once you choose the system, if you will, the overarching framework of your productivity through whatever expert it is, then it's a matter of, okay, what am I going to focus on first? So for example, if part of your lack of productivity is the fact that, you open this up because you get some kind of notification and all of a sudden you realize that you're, scrolling in the abyss for 30 minutes. Well, that's very quickly solved. And there's a ton of references online about it. Simply just turn it off, put it on focus mode, right? And I'm not sure what Android has, but iPhones, you put it on focus mode. And then what you can do is actually in focus mode, if there's specific people you want to learn from, or sorry, specific people you want their messages to get through, all you do is you simply just take it for those people, you put them to be able to come through in focus mode, right? So what it'll do is it'll weed out all of the non-emergency information, contacts, push notifications that come through to help you stop. Or some people just turn it off completely. Up to you, whatever one you prefer. So that's one, right? But the idea is you take 1 to 3 of these things every week. And then really all I do in that respect is I rinse and repeat. There's really like 3 steps, right? One, find the overarching tool or system that works for your productivity that actually fits into your workflow. Number 2, identify 1 to 3 things a week you want to improve on and focus specifically on those. And number 3, which actually should be number 2, is find one guru at a time. Implement what works, really mull it over. See, does this work for me? Does it not work for me? Is this something I want to implement in my business? And then if it is, you keep that one strategy. So say you take 3 strategies a week, right? That's your formula. And out of the 3 in week one works. You keep that one. The next week you add another 3. So now you're operating with 4 strategies. One you've got down pat over the week because this is your goal, your mandate. This is the challenge for you. So you have that. That's integrated into your workflow. So that's just now another process in your workflow. And then say it's another part of your workflow. Okay, so this week I seem to be doing a ton of different presentations, or I seem to be doing a ton of proposals. So how do I get more productive or create templates in a system like Notion to help me get the proposals done faster? Meaning I click plus and the entire framework of it is all I got to do is fill in the boxes of information, right? So that's another one. So then week 2, you try to identify 3 new practices, start using them all, find out which ones work for you, adopt those into your workflow. And every week you're going to see this increased productivity. See, I think one thing that creates overwhelm for us specifically is the fact that a lot of the times we really don't adopt 1 to 2 to 3 things at a time. We're trying to adopt all these different things at one time. And all that does is create challenges for you because you're putting way too much into your workflow. Like, one thing the highest performers on earth do is anytime they take on a new task or they say, okay, I want to start doing a new thing in my business, right? Whether, perfect example is for me, podcasting, right? When I first started looking at podcasting and going live every day, I would reserve the time spot to go live. And one thing that happened is I found there was so much lack of productivity. I couldn't get the formatting right. I couldn't do this. So I figured, okay, how do I, if I really want to produce this every day and get going every day? And I'm sure you've realized I don't go on every day. My mission is to go on every day, but I also understand that there's different aspects of my business that move the needle more. Right now, somebody might disagree with that. I understand that, but at this point in time in my business, these are the things I need to focus on. And I'm constantly reprioritizing. Like every Sunday, I reprioritize for the week, right? But what I realized was if I try and do this thing at this far onset of what I'm used to and where I am, I'll never do it. I'll do it for a day or two, and then the motivation will wane and you'll never do it again. So the idea is these strategies need to fit into your workflow, your present workflow, right? So that's very key. In the end, keep what works. Don't try and do a million things at once, because when you do, you're going to get even more overwhelmed. And all you're going to do is say, well, this doesn't work. A lot of people do this with personal development. Their mindset is stuck in this negative or less than ideal mindset. And they try and change it in 2 days. Well, you've developed that mindset over decades, right? So to change it in 2 days is not going to work. And you try and do a million different things in 2 days, typically with personal development, because there's so much thrown at you in like one really great book, right? Instead of saying to yourself, okay, I'm going to implement one or two strategies every week. Which one works, I'm going to keep. The next one I'm going to throw out. And then the next week, I'm going to implement two new strategies. So give yourself like a month. And some of you might say, well, Dad, I'm at the brink of failure right now. I don't have a month. But full transparency, and if I can be really blunt with you, that's your fault. You chose not to do this earlier than now. So you chose to wait until you were literally on the edge of a cliff to try and get leverage to anchor yourself to the cliff so you can hold on. So you'll have to figure that one out. I'll create another show about strategy to that, because I've been there before, and I'm speaking out of experience, where let things go to the point where it's like keeping you up at night and you have no idea what to do. And then now you get even more overwhelmed. So the idea is to get ahead of these things, right? To make sure that these strategies, these ideas, the way the things that we're processing here actually work for you long term, right? Anyways, in the end, rinse and repeat. Choose 1 to 3 strategies. So I'll review this. 1 guru, 1, until you master all of their tools and strategies that work for you. Try 1 to 3 strategies per week. The ones that work, rinse and repeat. Very simple. 3-step process to get more things done and avoid overwhelm. Until next time, my friends, go out there, make every call educational, and crush your sales. We'll see you later.